A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, ChristiTutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, and I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Today's topic is conservationism. I am a conservative. Also, you know I've coined the term ChristiTutionalist. So I am a biblical Christian and believer in our United States Representative Republic Constitution, hence ChristiTutionalist. As a conservative, it's the root of the word conservationism or conservationist. Not at all to be confused with a climatard, a woke leftist planet worship, their faith, their religion. They're putting the planet above all else and all us, which is not biblical. That, again, is their religion, climatardism. Now, you may recall I wrote a TheLibertyBeacon.com piece called Micro versus Macro. That will factor and play a bit in this. The reason conservationism is the topic du jour this time around is because I was out and about in the sub-frigid, sub-zero wind chill weather here in Michigan and listening to talk radio, and a talk radio host was talking about conservationism. I felt it important that I piggyback on what he was saying and or pass along, share some of the things he said, plus, of course, add my additional thoughts. His main play regarding conservationism was, of course, the twisting and warping of the term, the meaning, the definition, like commie fasci sociis always do, because the issue is never the issue, which, if you recall, I had a TheLibertyBeacon.com piece, as well as a corresponding ChristiTutionalist Politics episode on that topic also, as well as the micro versus macro. Twisting and warping of language. The left always does. They can never win a logic, reasoned argument or discussion based on reality, so they have to twist, warp, distort everything. You can also check out my The Leftist 7Ds article and corresponding ChristiTutionalist Politics show for more on that. But the talk show host, and I apologize, I forget which one it was, or I would give him a shout out and credit for spurring this topic. But he was mainly talking about the climatardism as a sub-aspect of the overall leftardism and California as a whole. There are some who think we could just ignore California politics, or California politics if you prefer, but we cannot. He is correct in stating that what happens in California is important does matter, and we must, on the right, conservatives, ChristiTutionalists, do more to fight more battles and start winning and restoring the California Republic as a state, as well as the overall United States Republic. Of course, see the We the People Demand list, parts 1 and 2 of both TheLibertyBeacon.com and corresponding ChristiTutionalist Politics podcast episodes on that. We must fight in California. We must take back California. We must make California red again, because the left, the commie fascist socios, use everything that they can experiment with and claim in California as the testing ground on how to sell the pile of manure they want to pretend to you as a great chocolate pie. And that should make a reference to the movie, because you know I like to talk about movies from time to time. Remember the movie The Help, the shit pie. They're trying to sell us that to everyone and pretend it's some great, wonderful chocolate mousse pie for us to enjoy. So at any rate, what they try and perfect language-wise to gaslight people into buying into, including the climatardism, is first usually foisted upon the nation via California. Therefore, we must fight more in California to make a difference there, so that it doesn't take root and give them the ground to launch towards moving it across the rest of the 49 other states. Now, the title again, Conservationism. Conservative or conservatism is the root, and as a Christian, I understand we are to be stewards of the planet, but not worship the planet. Therein lies the major rub and issue. The climatards, to push their government as God, faith, and religion through partly planet worship as a method of delivery and removing people from Christianity. As I say in my Will Real Christians Save America, the left wants to destroy it, and many fake Christians buy into their twisting and warping of the Bible. It is biblical community, not by free will, not bastardized, worldly, satanic communism by and via force. An example, I'll give a couple, but one being the spotted owl out in California, an endangered species that the left claims and wants to pretend to care about and protect. Well, their rules and regulations and laws out there have further endangered the spotted owl to the point where they are lower in numbers than ever before, and the barred owl, Barred, is encroaching into that land area because they are more suitable, better suited, more adaptable to adopt the climate that the spotted owl protected areas are meant to be there for the spotted owl. They're actually killing off the spotted owl. So as usual, I don't care what you leftard pretend intentions are. Results are what matters. And you are failing the spotted owl to the point where you created open season laws on the barred, B-A-R-R-E-D owl that is taking area that you want to reserve and preserve just for the spotted owl, because again, climatardism is your religion. You want to play God and give that particular land only over to the spotted owl, and you're willing to slaughter barred owls.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Joseph M. Leonard, host of ChristiTutionalist, taking a brief moment to thank myarchic.com. Together we share the Christian and family value of honoring family. myarchic.com helps you do that. Preserving family memories online also, therefore, can be shared online. Think of myarchic like a Noah's Ark for images, audio, video, preserving, honoring your family. Thank you again to the folks over at myarchic.com.
By massive numbers in order to accomplish it. So you have no problem, like with aborting babies, killing off life to supposedly preserve some other favored, preferred life. One other great example the radio show host that I was listening to gave as proof of the left cares about anything, or at least pretends to care about anything and everything but human life, is the delta smelt. But let's examine that sub-point before we talk about the delta smelt specifically. They pretend and claim to care more about wildlife than human life, to the degree that with the California policy, the forests are burning up, and other areas, inhabited areas, are burning up at record levels because they refuse to manage the land. As Christians, we are stewards of the planet and supposed to do to protect life, to preserve life. That includes wildlife as well as human life. If you don't really want to upset Bambi and Thumper, you're afraid that not clear cutting, I don't want to use that term. That's their term they like to use. We don't really do that anymore. And where we do, we replant new forest life that then sprouts up. Trees are a renewable life source, a renewable resource. But the point being, if you don't clear out some of the brush and cut in fire breaks, that may upset Bambi and Thumper a little bit, so they have to move their living quarters 100 feet over. Or after we clean brush, they can come back. Because you climatards, you know what really is and would be upsetting to Bambi and Thumper? Being burnt to a crisp in a fire we could have prevented, but you refuse to allow us to prevent. Or if not prevent, because yes, some wildfires are naturally occurring based on lightning, of course. But once a fire starts, It matters whether we manage the land properly so that millions of acres of forest don't burn down entirely, really upsetting Bambi and Thumper by scorching them, burning them to death. One thing you never hear anymore of a leftist is talk about the Amazon rainforest. Still, areas are being cut, but they don't talk about it. They won't talk about it. They don't care. And back to micro versus macro discussion, micro level barrel, wind-driven drum barrel mills in your own yards, on your own properties, are reasonable and sensible and make sense on the micro level. The massive offshore wind farms where those things fall apart, they leak oil because, yes, they require oil to remain lubricated to be able to operate. And now, of course, the precious whales you pretended to care about are dying off in record numbers again because they are beaching themselves because of the frequency, the mechanical resonances of those offshore wind farms messing with the wildlife, which again proves the issue is never the issue, only it as a cause and your ability to destroy the USA and our culture. You don't care about those whales and the dolphins and the pools and schools of fishes that are dying off in record numbers. American bald eagles and condors being destroyed in record numbers because they run into the windmills and die, are killed by them. So all those things you pretend you care about, you don't. Your actions speak louder than your empty rhetoric, your idiotic, fake, and holier than all pretentious supposed good intentions. What matters is reality, measured results. What happens, not your make believe, pretend, but it makes me feel good nonsense. The Delta smelt. They have changed the laws in California so that certain bodies of water, the intakes cannot take as much water as we once did because it might accidentally pull in some of the Delta smelt that they're so concerned about. They're so concerned about the Delta smelt to the point that care supposedly more about the smelt than humans. In the United States, there are still people hungry and starving, but yet they starve the California farmers of enough water to protect the Delta smelt, meaning hundreds of thousands of gallons of fresh water we all need to survive aren't being dammed up or reservoired or offloaded from their current path, pulling so that we can let the farmers have enough water in California to grow food so that food can be plentiful and inexpensive enough so humans aren't starving. They don't care about the humans starving. And you obviously understand that and know that on the abortion issue. They want to kill off people. These are their faith, their religion, their planet worship. They're supposedly holier than all else, which is, of course, not just extra constitutional, extra biblical. It's not community, it's communism. They claim to be preserving life when they are causing loss of life. based on the wildfires and the lack of food coming out of California than what used to come out of California. Lastly, I want to mention about dams. Governor Grewscum, as I call him, eliminated 3 dams, had 3 dams destroyed. So more and more fresh water is rushing out into the ocean, where it becomes then salted. And the other related item is desalination plants. They decommissioned some, refused to greenlight other desalination plants being built in California. We don't just need 4 or 5 in California. We need 2 in Washington State, 2 in Oregon State. We need them even all along the East Coast. I'm here in Detroit, Michigan, the Great Lakes state. You'd think there's plenty of fresh water. Not necessarily so. In the future, not to global warming, man-made climate change nonsense, natural normal cycles of weather and the planet wobble and solar sun flares and sunspots, water rises and falls, different levels, and at sometime in the future, as you may have seen many dystopian movies created about such, wars fought over fresh water. We need to replace fresh water here in the United States, on the East Coast even. There should be desalination plants in New York State, Massachusetts, the District of Columbia area, and Florida. And if we're not going to build enough reservoirs to cool that water, then the underground aquifers that we draw fresh water from should be being replenished by water we desalinate from the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, so that it is replenished. Again, as Christians, we are to be good stewards of the planet. That is biblical community, not idiot leftist communism by force and idiocy planet worship, putting all other life above human life and before human life. So at any rate, that's what I wanted to address today. Thank you to that talk show host. I wish I could remember who it was. It was on my local The Patriot, which is now called The Answer, AM 1400 in the Detroit area. The time slot was from noon to 2 that I heard the person, but it was a fill-in host, and I forget whose regular show that belongs to. But thank you to them for bringing that up so I could talk to you today about conservationism from a biblical, ChristiTutionalist, conservative, proper standpoint, in proper context, not the leftard, climatard idiocy only about what makes them feel superior to all, and they ignore their results. Their supposed good intentions are always a failure, and they make matters worse, like with the spotted owl. They're gonna die off based on leftard policy. The Delta smelt, in the grand scheme of all life, is but a small factor. There have been animals and species that have come and gone from the planet for all time. Now is no different. Us trying to protect one species at the expense of another species, whether it be another owl species or the human species, is just insane. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Wait, don't go yet. There's something I almost forgot that the host of the show I was listening to mentioned. And for the record, I am recording this on Wednesday, January the 15th for future airing. It is reported now that the California Wildlife Agency is deploying people to help with the wildfires. No, not help the firefighters. No, not help those who are already displaced and in need, fellow humans, but instead to see what they can do to save an endangered trout that is in the path of the wildfires. Do you need any more examples of how the left care about anything and everything but either themselves and their immediately family, friend, and donors, don't care at all about anyone outside their particular circle? Then that. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, but the trout thing is just a perfect example of what we're talking about here. The fish are in the water. The water might warm up some, but the trout aren't going to be burnt to death like Bambi and Thumper that they sacrificed at the altar of their climatard religion. They don't really care, or they would want to preserve Bambi and Thumper's life. Just had to do a quick add-on about that. Thank you all. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at TheLibertyBeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.